Do you ever wonder what your politicians are talking about when the cameras and the microphones are turned off? Did you leave today's coffee date thinking, I wonder if Kim actually believed that story that I beat up 2 polar bears and 3 tigers over the weekend, all while blindfolded and juggling 3 penguins? You see, everyone wants to know if they actually have the inside scoop. However, a Messianic organization went to a Christian Nationalist convention to see what they would really say around a comfortable audience. Today, my guest is Jacob Fronczak. That and more on Messianic Monday. Hi, my name is Caleb D. Wilson, and I believe that Jesus is the Jewish Messiah. And welcome back to another episode of Messianic Monday. I just want to briefly mention that we did have a bit of a technological delay, so there were a couple times that we kind of tripped over each other. We worked through it, and we had a great interview. If you guys would please consider to subscribe, I make content educating people about the Jewishness of Jesus. Every subscription really helps. Enjoy this interview. Jacob Fronczak, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, we got a lot to talk about today. So maybe just start off with I heard about this event that happened. I think you guys went there in like April. It was some event called Christ is King, How to Defeat Trash World. What a title. Yeah, it's just really...
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Very specific.
Yeah, so could you tell us what happened?
The title's very specific. Yeah. So we had been watching, as a First Fruits of Zion, the Messianic Jewish teaching organization that I work for, we had been watching some of the people associated with. So it's Right Response. These are the people that put on this conference, and we had been seeing them pop up like on YouTube. We had been seeing their clips pop up, and Joel Webben had been saying some sort of edgy, sort of inflammatory things about Judaism. I think a clip about Judaism being a parasitic religion, things like that. And we had, because I do the Reacts, the React videos for our YouTube channel. And we had thought, should we say something about this? And we're like, well, we're not sure if it's worth it, or what kind of reach he really getting, or like whether there's enough overlap with the sort of people who would watch our channel that there would be any point in addressing it. And then I want to say, I could be remembering this wrong, I want to say that his buddy Andrew Isker went on Tucker Carlson's show to promote a Hebrews commentary, maybe something like that. And it was just they were going back and forth. They go back and forth about how Judaism, Hebrews is left with the end of Judaism, and it's the new covenant and all that. And that we felt that platform was a lot bigger than what they had been on in the past. And we thought, oh, there's maybe this is growing, maybe this is something, because we felt like some of our constituents are probably watching this and would wonder what we would have to say about it. So we thought, well, they had the conference so imminently coming up, and we decided, like, well, let's go ahead and just like take a look. Let's not announce that we are who we are. Let's just go quietly and listen to the conference presentations and see, because there's a difference between the messaging for outsiders and messaging for insiders. And we wanted to see whether they kicked it up a notch with the messaging for insiders when they knew that the audience was friendly. How far would they take this? Some of this rhetoric, some of this anti-Jewish rhetoric and stuff like that. And so 3 of us went, me and my colleagues, Jordan and Aaron, for First Fruits of Zion. We all went down to, we flew into Austin, and we drove to Temple, and we went to Christ is King, How to Defeat Trash World. And that's how we ended up there.
So what is Trash World in their eyes? What was this Trash World that they're trying to, I guess, get rid of, to dispense with? What is this Trash World?
Yeah. So it reminded me of that scene in the Matrix where Morpheus is, where Neo's like, what is the Matrix? And Neo's, what is the Matrix? And Morpheus says, but no one can tell you what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself, but you can feel it all around you when you pay your taxes. And it's just, it was similar to that. Like they get up and talk about like trash world. Everybody knows what trash world is. Everything out there, the world is upside down. Everything's the way that it shouldn't be. And men are women now, and women are men now. And but as far as a robust, maybe academic type of definition, I found that to be lacking. Now, I haven't read this guy's book. I believe the term comes from a book that Andrew Isker wrote, and I have not read the book. It's possible that he goes into more surgical detail in there, but it is, a lot of it felt to me like sort of vibes. It's like, whatever you out in the audience, disaffected young man, whatever you feel is wrong with the culture, you can go ahead and plug that into this term of trash world, because right now I sense that they are in a phase of trying to build a broader coalition. They're trying to draw in sort of different types of people. So they want to address everybody's grievances with the status quo, but maybe not in such a sense that, not in a specific enough sense that they upset maybe some other people that they also want to draw in. But the ones that they really hammered at the conference were, they really don't like trans people. They really don't like Muslims, um, particularly like visible Muslim things happening, like Muslims having political power. And really, Calvin Robinson talked about this in the UK, and about how there's just like they have their own law courts and things like that, and it's wild. But and they really don't like women in the public sphere. Is not how they would put it, but it's how that's how it came off to me. Women going to college, women getting jobs, and particularly women in HR departments telling men that they're not allowed to use slurs or whatever whatever sort of risky behavior that people might wish that they could do at work, that would be frowned upon by the HR department. So that probably is the tip of quite an iceberg, but those were the talking points that kept coming up at the conference: trans people, Muslims, and women replacing men in roles that these basically working outside the home. And the but when Webben got up to talk about the Leviathan and what the reformers would be fighting against now if they were alive now, they said the reformers wouldn't be fighting against the Catholic Church. They'd be fighting against Judaism, Islam, and secular humanism. And he put Judaism first, if I remember correctly. And that's we wouldn't care about these guys if there wasn't this undercurrent that sometimes bubbles up and becomes the main talking point, that the Jews did this. Like, why are women working outside the home? Well, the Jews did this. Who invented transgenderism and feminism and all this? Well, it was the Jews. And that doesn't always come out to the forefront, but sometimes it does. And that's what really sort of worried us about this movement.
Yeah, you mentioned Andrew Iskar was there, and I haven't watched his full interview with Tucker, but I do recall seeing a clip where he asserted. Actually, I think you were reacted to this clip where he said that back there was more Gentiles that were faithful than Jews in that time, and that was a very
Yeah.
interesting kind of slant that he took.
Yeah, he's looking at the Gospels and he's remembering things like the centurion, right? And Jesus saying, "Look, I haven't seen faith like this in all Israel." And he's sort of forgetting all the people that followed Jesus and all the Jews who like followed Jesus, and the thousands of Jews in Acts after Peter's speech right there in like the second chapter, and the myriads more by Acts 21. How many Jews are following Jesus, all zealous for the law? And even in, I think I might have mentioned the passage in Luke. Like, how far do you have to start reading in Luke before you find a good devout Jew who's doing everything they're supposed to do? And there were lots of those kinds of people. And yeah, the fact that he sort of that he was downplaying that, um, was concerning, because it's not in the text. So if you have to, if that's what you want to say, the text says, then why? Like, what are you getting at when you say that, right?
Right. It's kind of like the whole, what would you call it? The point that you're getting to. Like, what's the end goal? Like, what's the whole world view that you're trying to capture and all of that? Um, I wanted to read one of the, because it was Jordan Upton, I think, who wrote the article, and I just wanted to read part of it. And
Hmm.
there's this guy named Eric Kahn there, and he said that Eric
Oh
Kahn,
yeah.
accused the Jews, of the rise of communism, saying many are familiar with the
Mm-hmm.
tragic death of Tsar Nicholas and his family at the hands of Jewish Bolsheviks. With his death, Russia was swallowed up by the Marxist revolution. If the Jewish communist libel wasn't enough, Khan attacked Jewish conservatives with untrue allegations based in anti Semitic tropes. And so Eric Kahn says, what about Dennis Prager's support of AI child porn and his endorsement of sex outside of marriage? What about Ben Shapiro's hostility toward anyone who dare criticize Israel in any way? Why are we not allowed to talk about those things? After talking about those things, Kant summed up saying, "In the Christian nation, we're seeking to build. We're seeking to build. We will call gay things gay. That will happen. We will refuse to hold their stupid pronouns, and yes, hold the Judeo. I'll take the Christian. Thank you very much." That moment won raucous applause, and the speech got a standing ovation. Wow. I mean, wow. I mean, what is your thought about that situation?
Yeah, yeah. So Khan, and this was session 4, so they waited a little while before they brought this guy out. And he came on after that. The third session was a guy named Steve Deese, who seemed to have his head on straight in a lot of ways. He said people should support Israel, um, not maybe not for the best reason. He said it as a cudgel against Islam, but then they bring out Eric Kahn, and this was the guy who who his talk was, I think his talk was subtitled "Burning Down the Longhouse," and but for him the Longhouse was women having like civil rights, or like at least having like influence in society. um and he wanted a new society where, competition and hierarchy, and what he considered to be masculine values, masculine social activity. But he was the one, in the midst of all that, he was the one who kept on bringing up, like, oh, the Jews. And was it him? I don't think it was him that did the other thing, so I won't talk about that right now. But he was the one who was like, yeah, the Tsar, the wonderful Tsar, was the I don't know what, and those horrible Jewish Bolsheviks. It's like, okay. To my understanding, the protocols of the learned elders of Zion was a fabrication by the Tsarist police. So the Tsar, how many Jewish deaths resulted from that? Like, how anti-Semitic was this guy? And when you look at anti-Semitism in Tsarist Russia, anyone who's seen Fiddler on the Roof has got it was a big enough deal that it percolated into musicals, right? It's just something that people knew about. It's at least people used to know about. The pogroms and all of this stuff under the Tsar. And by whatever instrument God delivers judgment, I feel like a virulently anti-Semitic monarch, eventually maybe they get what's coming to them. I don't know. I mean, you can't kill Jews forever and not expect that to come back on your own head. The Reich is gone. The monarchies of Europe that all expelled the Jewish people, some of them still have kings and queens, but they don't have the power that they used to. If you use your power to oppress Jewish people, I see this in history as a pattern. Like, when was the last time you met a Babylonian? That political structure is gone now. The Assyrians are gone now. All of the people that oppressed the Jewish people eventually get what's coming to them. So I don't think that Tsar was that great. But this idea that it's the Jews that are causing these world movements, and they're secretly puppeting things behind the strings. Like, this is the sort of propaganda, like that I think it's just recycled straight from Goebbels. Like that's where he's getting this stuff about the Jews and the communists and Jews inventing the transgenderism, Jews inventing feminism to degrade and erode the pure Western culture and society. Like this, it's just straight out of the Nazi playbook, and I find that really concerning. Like, because you have 1,000 people in the room. There's a big conference, the 1,000 people there, and they're all eating this up. They applauded. They did applaud a lot every time he mentioned the Jews, and he did get a standing ovation. And I find that very concerning.
Yeah, that's part of the reason I was like, I saw this article and I was like, why? I could be obviously you guys wrote the article, but I saw you. I felt like you guys put it up, and maybe it's just me and my bubble. I just felt like it kind of just went away quickly as far as like I don't know, didn't seem like people were talking about it. But I was like, this seems like a really huge event that just happened. I mean, just the tropes that are being portrayed, and but now the Jews are the Marxists. I just maybe I've lived in a bubble, but I've never heard that. But you know, there's always new things to accuse the Jews of. So
Oh yeah, yeah. Like a lot of times you go through history and you find, like you look at the little studied, at least in the circles that I've been educated in and grew up in, there were a lot of revolutions in Europe in the 1800s, the mid 1800s, 48, around 1848. And to my research, which admittedly is limited, um, the Jewish people were blamed by both sides. Like one side would say, "Oh, those Jews are fomenting these revolutions." The other would say, "Oh, these wealthy Jews are bankrolling the anti-revolutionaries." And it's just like, wow, it's the Europe scapegoating Jews for its own problems has been a thing since at least the medieval period, and maybe back into antiquity. So it's not new, but it's one of those things that you would hope after the Holocaust and all of the post-Holocaust reckoning and introspection and scholarship and the historical investigation, you would hope that we wouldn't have to come back around and remind everybody of this stuff. Like, hey, when you say this, you have put one foot in front of the other, and it's in the same direction as like 1930s Germany, and we know where that path leads. And no, I don't want anyone to go down that path, but we've sort of forgotten all the steps that led up to it. We know about the gas chambers, but we don't. We haven't all read enough history to know about all the little things that happened in the decades leading up to it. And so it's possible that I'm oversensitive to this because I have read a little bit of history, but I don't think so. I think there's enough there that there's a there. I think that he's borrowing enough of the terminology and the rhetoric, of the anti-Semitic rhetoric of interwar Germany, that I just think, wow. I wonder. I don't think he's doing it. Like, is he doing it on accident, or did he get it from somewhere else where it had been sort of whitewashed and he doesn't know where it comes from, or is this like on purpose? Like, I don't know.
yeah, yeah, that's definitely concerning. And I want to go back to Joel Webbon because I think you had mentioned this video where he had said that Judaism was parasitic. What was his reasoning for Judaism being parasitic? Like, what's his theology behind that?
Yeah, yeah. So he said Judaism is a parasitic religion, and then what he talked about was like, oh, they come into a country and they don't really share the values, but they involve themselves in the economy and the stuff. And it's like, oh, is he talking about Judaism, or is he talking about Jews? Like, did he just did he just change one word a little bit and hope no one noticed? Um, and I didn't. I don't. I'm not sure we ended up reacting to that. And if there's some, but if I thought we might, and I do actually like the videos to be my first reaction, so I didn't watch enough of it to to actually be able to tell you. People can go out and find it though. I'm sure it's out there. I mean, we found it, so it's out there. but beyond the first couple of sentences, I thought, oh, we might react to this, and so I didn't watch the rest. And maybe we still might. We have like a back catalog of things if nothing new is happening. Which right now I don't know if we're going to be dipping into the back catalog much because there's quite a bit happening right now. But yeah, we I didn't watch the whole video, but the part that I did watch, it's like, oh, I think he's just talking about Jews.
Yeah, actually, and I was just dealing with somebody who had basically asserted that the antagonist of the Bible is Jerusalem, and I was thinking about it when they had made this statement, and it was kind of like, what if we made the alliteration that Washington D.C., like if we say Washington D.C., like a lot of upset people who are upset with politics, they say, oh well, Washington D.C., like what are they doing there? Well, we know what that means. That politically represents the United States. And I was like, well, if you're saying like Jerusalem is the antagonist, that's the
Yeah,
political capital of all things Jewish. So how is it not logical for me to extend that reasoning to say that you're speaking about all Jews?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's also the religious center of Judaism. The Temple Mount is the only holy site in Judaism, really. And yeah, so what you hit on reminded me because I'd been looking at Revelation commentaries because we're about to head into in this fall we're doing end of days with Torah Club at First Fruit Design. We're having this big for a year we're going to go through Jewish eschatology and we're gonna take apart the whole book of Revelation. We're going to learn it from a Messianic Jewish perspective, which is something I'm really looking forward to. But one of the Christian interpretive paradigms for Revelation is first of all, that it was written before the destruction of the temple, and second of all, that the Babylon in Revelation is Jerusalem, and so the Jews are like the enemy, and they're the bad guys, and they're the ones that are being set up to fall, and that's that. And I was reading this. I didn't read a commentary from this perspective, but it was listed among the perspectives, alternate perspectives in like another commentary, maybe Grant Osborne's commentary. And I was like, wow, people believe that. People believe that the Jewish people are the antagonists of the New Testament. Like maybe they're the protagonists in the Old Testament. Maybe they're not. I mean, there's some people who think they're not. And Joel Evan would say they're not. He'd say they never got it. But yeah, people think that like the Jews are the bad guys. And of course, at First Fruit Design, we take basically the opposite view, which is that the Jews are God's people, like from the time of Abraham's call all the way through to the end of Revelation. And it's wild to me that you can get these diametrically opposed views from reading the same text. Of course, I think that we're right.
Yeah, that's what I'm baking on. I think we're right too. So okay, so what's this whole takeaway then? Like, did you walk away with any perspective? Did you feel like it was worth it? Like, well, what'd you come away with?
I was glad that I went because I think I'm not sure how big their movement is going to get. They are like sort of growth focused. They are trying to bring more people in. Um, Webben talked about how he tries to bring new speakers in, and he talked about how much money it costs to invite so many speakers, not just the main speakers, but the panelists, and from different sort of backgrounds. And he is trying to build a broader coalition. And whether he's successful, if he's successful, I felt that we as an organization at First Fruit Design should be able to talk about what he's doing from a place of a little bit more grounded knowledge, like firsthand knowledge. Like we went ahead and went to the thing, and we talked to the people and we listened to everything they had to say, rather than saying, based on a 7-minute YouTube clip, here's my assessment of this whole movement and everything they stand for and everyone who's associated with them. And I hope that's not the case. I hope that it sort of fizzles out, but they do a pretty good job of keying into the I don't know what the right word to use is. I don't want to use I don't want to use the wrong word. I don't want to use a word that makes it sound like I'm making fun of these people. But there is a cohort of young men who they know, they're looking at the house their father bought on a single income salary, right? They're looking at the lifestyle that their parents had at their age, 30 years ago or whatever, um, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, and they're thinking, what happened? What happened? Why I did everything right. I did everything they told me to. I went to college, I got, and I just am not able to find this type of success. And there are millions of these people, and a lot of them are becoming radicalized. A lot of them are becoming radicalized by all kinds of movements. They're seeing Muslim propaganda. They're seeing Chinese propaganda. They're seeing from everywhere, because they're ripe for the picking. Because they're primed to believe that whatever system we have right now is broken because it's not working for them. And I would say that there's truth in that. There's something true about that. There's something that's not working about the current system. I think that's fair to say. A good system would find something for all these people to do, and they'd be compensated well for it. And so we'd be building things. Our society would be growing. Like that's there's a lot of fair complaints, and but they're not being addressed at the political level. They weren't addressed in the first Trump administration or the Biden administration, and I don't think they're going to be addressed in the second Trump administration. And people are getting more and more frustrated as the pendulum goes back and forth. And no matter who's in there, like none of their concerns are being addressed in a material way. And so groups that will come alongside and say, you're right, and it's not your fault, it's the system. And specifically, and that's where it sort of depends on who you're listening to. And if you're listening to the right response people, it's well specifically, the Jews are trying to destroy our society by making sure women go to college instead of marrying you and having your babies. And that's an incredibly seductive message, because it takes blame and it puts it on everywhere else but on me. And it gives a clear enemy, and it offers a path forward, which is, it's not incredibly clear, but the goal is to gain a monopoly on political power. And it offers us, I think, a sense of community, that other people who have the same problems, all the 1,000 of them in the room together, must have felt very good for them. It felt a little claustrophobic for me, but they probably it felt great. And I think it's, as if the movement matures, it may even offer more concrete, like, here's something you can do. Obviously, my fear is that it will be, here's something crazy. One of the things for one of the first things that Webben said in the intro, before they even started the sessions, it was the opener, was, some of you are going to go out and do something crazy. But if you have money, maybe you should just keep working your job and donate your money to us. But some of you are going to go out and do something crazy. And I think this was, I don't know if this was in April or whatever. And when I heard that the guy in Minnesota was just running into Democratic lawmakers' homes, and just blowing them away with a gun, I thought, wow, I wonder if he was at that conference. Like, that's a crazy thing to do. But it was a calculated attempt to shift the balance of power in the Minnesota House and Senate. And I'm not saying that for legal reasons, but probably for other reasons, I'm not saying that they're definitely connected. However, you can understand how someone listening to all this stuff, all of this rhetoric, and hearing the idea floated, hey, maybe you can make a difference. I can't tell you how, but maybe you could make a difference, and maybe it'll be crazy, and maybe you'll be killed for it. Like, maybe you'll give your life for this, and maybe that's what it's going to take. To hear these kinds of things. And well, it's not just these guys saying that kind of stuff. There's other people saying that kind of stuff, and it's worrying because when someone comes to a point where they don't believe that any other type of action will achieve any meaning in their life or any concrete goal that's worth achieving, they will do crazy things. So that's one thing I'm worried about.
Yeah, it sounds like what's happening is kind of like you're weaponizing, or maybe not even intentionally so, but like desperation can be definitely manipulated. And if you say, if you paint this picture of the trash world, right, that the things are in the system or in the world are bad, and you say, well, we got to do something. What do we do? I don't know, but we got to do something. You know, eventually somebody will get tired of sitting around and want to go do something. You know, and go finally try to do something to fix that
Yeah,
system in whatever way they think that it's going to fix it. So it definitely sounds a little
yeah,
cultish to me. I don't know. What do you think?
yeah. And I think one of the things that you find in cults is this sort of alternate reality, like oh, everything you were taught about history is wrong, and everything you were taught about science is wrong. We have, you know, our little group has the truth that's been hidden from you. And the Andrew Isker came out of the gate with some of this stuff, and he really said everything you've been told is wrong. History is 180 degrees different. The good guys are the bad guys are the good guys. This is Andrew Isker, session one. And he was like, oh, Charlemagne and these guys, the Crusades are all great. And he moved forward through history, and he's like, and FDR and the New Deal was terrible and he was bad. And then he said, was it him that said this? Might not have been him. It might have been one of the other ones. No, it was him. It was him. Andrew Isker said, and I can't talk about World War II because Daryl Cooper got in trouble for what he said on Tucker Carlson's show about World War II. And what Daryl Cooper said was that Churchill was the bad guy in World War II. So this is a guy that embraces that view, and that what that means is that Hitler is not the bad guy of World War II. And but he was very coy and said, I can't say what I want to say here at this point in the talk. And he moved forward from there in history. It's like Richard Nixon was a great guy, and um, so this sort of like hidden history, secret history, you've been lied to, everything that you've been told is wrong. Um, that can instill a sense of group identity that's very powerful and can be leveraged into a cult like sort of thing. I don't know that I would put that term on the umbrella right response thing, but there are several groups. There's something going on in like Idaho. There's something going on, I want to say, in Tennessee, and maybe a couple of other places where they're trying to build local communities around these values, these like I'm not sure what to call it. I mean, it's reformed, but there's like sort of normal reformed people also. So I don't want to just say just reformed, but this specific strain of whatever these guys are, they're trying to live it out in little communities. And you can see how something like that's locally governed, you know, where women can't read a book without asking their husbands first and stuff. It's like, well, you could see how that sort of control being leveraged, and um, that could lead into a cult like sort of situation. And I just pray for people that are considering joining a group like that, or who are on their way to it, particularly the women, that they don't end up in a dangerous situation.
Yeah, and it sounds like, because it does exist a group of people who do feel like they've been betrayed. And I think that there is some of that. The system, like, ultimately, there's always going to be some level of brokenness until Messiah comes and is ruling in Jerusalem. There's always going to be a level of brokenness in society. And I think what happens is that people do feel betrayed because they probably have been betrayed, absolutely. But they, like you said, they weaponize. People can weaponize that and say, "Oh, well, here's why you've been betrayed, and now when you've been betrayed, now it's like, well, how else have I been betrayed? I was like, what else am I falling prey to? And
Oh
so people
yeah,
can totally
that's
weaponize that.
exactly what Isker said. What else have I been lied to about? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, Jacob, I think this has been really good conversation. So I just want to know what's first fruits of Zion got going on for the future. Just want to talk about that for a little bit.
Sure. Well, the antidote in my mind to this and to any perversion of the gospel message is just the gospel message. At First Fruits of Zion, we promote the gospel of the kingdom, which is just the gospel as is what Mark and Matthew and the others say that it is. It's repent because the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Repent and believe the gospel. Believe the good news that Jesus will come back. He will establish a kingdom. We don't have to do it for him. We don't have to take over the world. We don't have to be Christian nationalists. We don't have to, try to do it through political power. He will come back and do it. And until then, make disciples. Make disciples, like he said in Matthew 28. Teach other people. Don't force them, but teach them. Teach them to all the commandments that he gave. And he said he'd be with us till the end of the age. Make disciples. Make disciples. And, we think that the best way to make disciples in a Messianic Jewish context is Torah Club. So right now we are asking everyone to consider starting or joining a Torah club this fall for End of Days. And End of Days is not just a study on the end times, although it is, but it's not just that, because the eschatological fervor and the idea that the end was so close and imminent and could happen at any time is such an important component of all of the apostolic writings. Everything we read in the New Testament is colored by this expectation of the end of this age and the beginning of the next age. There's going to be great calamity and tribulation, and then the Messiah will come, he will return, and he will inaugurate a kingdom. And at that time, he will judge everybody. He's going to judge everybody. He's going to judge all of his followers, and we're going to have to give an account for everything that we've done in the body. And when this is your outlook, if someone says to you, oh, let's go take over the government and make sure women can't go to college, you will give them the gospel and try to lead them to the Lord because you have an outlook that mirrors that of the apostles, a first century Jewish apocalyptic worldview, that there's going to be an end of this age. And in this age, we don't have power. And in this age, we suffer. And in this age, we die. And in this age, we get sick. And in this age, we are persecuted. And in the next age, when the Messiah returns, at that time, he will redeem his people and will rule and reign with him, but not yet. And I think that understanding that is key to sort of being inoculated to a lot of these perversions of the gospel or false gospels that are going around. And End of Days is going to provide a great foundation for understanding and having that worldview as a follower of Jesus. So that's what we're talking about right now. We want everyone to take a look at End of Days. I think there's even a landing page. What is it? Let me make sure I have it right. I think we got a pretty good one, but maybe we didn't. Go to ffoz.org and click around until you find it, though. If I can't find it here. Oh, there it is. It's endofdays.org. You can go to endofdays.org. That's a little shortcut to the End of Days landing page. endofdays.org. I'm very excited that we got that URL. And you can sign up right there. You can learn more about it. We are, this is probably going to be the best one yet. We've done Torah Club for years now, and this is the one I'm probably most excited about. So yeah, check it out.
I'll leave that link in the comments below. Yeah, Jacob, thank you so much for coming on. And guys, go ahead and check out First Fruits of Zion. They're producing a lot of great content. Jacob's been the content creator, is always reacting to great things and putting out really great content about Messianic Judaism.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was good, a good conversation. I'm glad people are interested in this stuff, and with God's help, we'll steer everybody in the right direction.